even more important than independence, as important as independence is, of course. But if we had independence without majority rule, we would not have been a happy people. And the best example of that is South Africa. They had independence and they also had apartheid. So they were not happy at all. And the big event for them was when they got rid of apartheid. And for us, independence was a wonderful, moment in our development. But majority rule made all things possible for us and freed us from a lot of stuff. Yeah. So that's why I claim that it is the most important event since emancipation. When we were waking, there was tremendous tension and a feeling of expectancy, but not quite certain. But when the results started to come in that night, we were celebrating and the euphoria set in. Oh my goodness. I think that was perhaps one of the happiest couple hours of my life, right? The celebration right after that. I still have a picture of Miles and Nichols and I on Bay Street. And people say, well, he didn't know until later. Well, we knew Randall wasn't going anywhere. Randall, Randall did his thing, he got to come and, they offered him money and all the rest of it. But Randall was a part of the movement. And he was elected mostly on PLB votes. But the euphoria of that moment was incomparable. I've never experienced anything quite like that. Quite wonderful. We've made some progress, and like every other nation, we're not perfect by any means. And sometimes we focus on one thing and we neglect certain things. But we've done well with tourism, obviously, and we've made some great advances in education. Now, when I say that, some people say, oh, we got so many problems in education. Yes, we do. But you have to remember that in my time, school leaving age was 14, and only a handful every year passed an examination to go to government high school. The rest had to leave school, unless, of course, their parents were, wealthy enough to pay for them to go on. So, but now we have a university. That's progress in education. No question about that. And as you know, we have produced some brilliant minds. Mm-hmm. So I'm disappointed in some things that we haven't done. Economic empowerment, that's a challenge that we have to find a way. It's not easy when you're developing your economy mostly with foreign investment. Because you can't say, give me a part. so we have to wake it up. We have to find more means and ideas to empower Bahamians. We have independence now, and we have a functioning government. And I always tell people too that when people talk, you want to bar this, and we have that with this Westminster system isn't serving us. It's not the system. Everything that has gone wrong has been because of our political leadership and over the years. So we have a wonderful system. We have a democratic parliamentary democracy with cabinet government. And that is the system chosen by most democratic nations in the world. And I always tell people when I hear this, oh, this Westminster system, nonsense. If you have a Cadillac out there, brand new, and you send somebody who cannot drive, it'll wind up around a lamppost. so it's not the system, it's what you're doing in the system. And we could do much better. And there's some things that both political parties need to take note of. And one of the things that bothers me most is We are doing brilliantly with our artistic culture. I feel so wonderful about that. I know we've always been talented people. We've produced artists, and Junkanoo itself is a magnificent expression of what we can do. And when you consider it, there's so many arts involved with Junkanoo, the designs and all the rest of that. And it takes discipline and working together. And Junkanoo ought to be a pattern for us in other things, working together. Because we can do it yes. But we in our artistic culture we're doing well. We have a virtual renaissance in art in the Bahamas, and we've had for quite some time. And there's been a revival of interest now in our music, like Rake and Scrape. That's quite wonderful. But our social culture, and I remember back in the day when I was Minister of Tourism, excuse me, I used to be so happy when people came to me and said, we came to the Bahamas because of sunshine and beautiful beaches and all that, but we keep coming back because of your people. He says, Bahamians are so different. They're so kind, they're so gentle, so mannerly. I guess we had something akin to old world manners. Yes, sir, no, ma'am. And we started that from early age. You couldn't dare talk to an adult, without the proper title. Yeah. But I'm afraid that our social culture, and I made this point in my demission speech, our social culture, we haven't paid sufficient attention to that. And one result of that, of course, is a lot of crime amongst our young people. And that is not going to be solved by policing. That the solution to that is to address the problem at its infancy. We know that young men are leaving school in droves, and that's a huge national challenge. I believe, I would guess right now, I haven't checked recently, but I would guess that the percentage of male enrollment at the university is probably 20-25%.
Which is really...
That's the problem. That is the problem. The huge economic and social problems flow from that. So we need to take a good look at our social culture and go back to those ways and inspire young men again. I hear this nonsense about education, higher education, that's for females. So everybody, we're all human beings. And the nation will never get, will never advance as it ought to without that. Education, an educated populace. The politics will improve because if the people are educated, the politicians will not be able to, scam them and all that sort of thing. So, but the main thing is not just education, is in our general attitude. When you always had in every culture, you have a low end. And we have always had a low end. But when the low end becomes the standard and the national, then you're in trouble. When you sit in a restaurant and you hear some people at the next table using what we used to call 5-pound language, and nobody says anything, that you just accept that? Really? That's the problem, right? But majority rule gave us so much power, and it released us from a psychological bonds